Hey guys, welcome back to another video. What we're going to be talking about today is coding bootcamps. What are they? Can they help you get a job? And can you really learn how to code from them, right? So I'll just be talking about some of my experience with coding bootcamps in the past. I've worked with many people that have graduated from coding bootcamps, having never worked or coded a day in their life before. They went to a coding bootcamp and then they worked as successful software engineers. So what is a coding bootcamp? It's basically a company that has the goal of teaching you how to code in 3 to 9 months. And then at the end of the 3 to 9 months, right, once you graduate, the idea is that you can get a job as a software engineer, right? So can you really go from never having coded to getting a job? And the answer to that is definitely 100% if you go through a coding bootcamp, right? A lot of people are very critical about coding bootcamps. You know, they say that you can't really learn to code in such a short time frame, but that isn't necessarily true at all. Like I said before, I've worked with many people that have graduated from coding bootcamps. There's many people working at companies like Google and Facebook that have graduated from coding bootcamps, and increasingly people are hiring from coding bootcamps as well. So it's definitely not true what people are saying about, you know, it being a fraud or like just a waste of money. That being said, you know, there's no guarantees, right? It all depends on you if you get a job afterwards. No one's going to be handing out jobs, so it's very dependent on the individual. Just going to a coding bootcamp doesn't necessarily guarantee you a job after, right? Also, coding bootcamps aren't all the same. You know, different coding bootcamps will specialize in different fields. So some might be, you know, mostly data science focused, or some might be more focused on mobile engineering on iOS or Java for Android, right? At the end of the day, they're all companies. So companies are run differently, and then they will teach different things in a different time frame. So it really depends on the coding bootcamp you go with. Also, some will teach at a higher level. You know, they'll teach you more languages at a higher level, and some will teach you less information, you know, maybe one language, but they'll dive deeper in. So you really have to do your research when picking a coding bootcamp to pay for and to go through. So I would recommend going to a coding bootcamp if you've never coded before, or if you've coded before and you're trying to become a software engineer, but you're having some trouble. And what I would recommend, you know, if you don't know what you want to specifically code, but you know that you want to code, I would recommend going to a bootcamp that teaches you about JavaScript. It teaches you full stack JavaScript because, you know, JavaScript equips you with a very wide array of skills. It lets you work on the front end with stuff like React, with Angular and Vue, and then it also lets you work on the back end with languages like Node.js. So it really equips you the most and gives you the most knowledge, especially if you don't know what you want to code, right? You don't know what specifically you want to do. If you know you want to do iOS development, then, you know, go for that. Or if you know you want to do data science, go for that. But if you don't have an idea, I would totally recommend going through a bootcamp that teaches you mainly JavaScript and just focuses on that. So at the beginning of each coding bootcamp, they'll basically teach you about the fundamentals of computer science, you know, if statements, for loops, how to write a function, stuff like that. And I think this will happen at any bootcamp when they'll start with the fundamentals, right? Especially because they focus on teaching people that have never coded before how to code. So you got to start with the fundamentals. And these skills, right, they're very transferable between any language. So it doesn't matter what language you learn these in, because each language has for loops, if statements, stuff like that. And a traditional JavaScript bootcamp, let's say, for example, will really give you all the tools you need to build a web app, right? It'll teach you about the front end. It'll teach you how to work on the back end. It'll teach you about databases. It'll teach you about, you know, the Unix shell using terminal. And then it'll also teach you stuff like version control and, you know, spinning up a server, writing an endpoint, like a basic version of an endpoint on the back end as well. So it really gives you all the tools you need. However, the rest is up to you, right? They teach you the minimum. They teach you everything you need to be successful, but there's really a lot of drive that you have to have personally in order to actually get a job afterwards. So basically, coding bootcamps give you what you need to be employable and nothing else. They're not going to go like crazy above and beyond. There might be some that you can pay more to do that, but the average coding bootcamp will literally just teach you, you know, the fundamentals, everything you need to know about, let's say JavaScript. They'll teach you everything you need to know about front end, back end, stuff like that, and everything you need to know to get a job. But the really in-depth knowledge, you're not going to get that from a coding bootcamp. So they usually have different payment options as well. Sometimes there's an upfront fee where you just pay somewhere between, you know, $10,000 to $20,000, and it's just an upfront fee and that's it. And then you go through the bootcamp. There's also ones that do like deferred payments. So you go through the bootcamp and then you sign like some contract where once you get a job, you know, you'll pay a certain percent of your salary, for example, right? So that ends up being a less risky option because you're not paying until you get a job. However, in the long run, you will end up paying more, probably around $30,000 as opposed to, you know, 10 to 20 if you go the upfront model. That being said, when you sign that contract and you go for the deferred payment, the coding bootcamp has a big incentive to get you a job, right? Because that's how they get paid. So in that sense, it might be easier to get a job afterwards if you have the deferred payment, because the coding bootcamp will really, really be helping you, because otherwise you're not going to get paid. They're not going to get paid, right? They also help you with the job process, right? So building a resume, building a LinkedIn profile, maybe connecting you with other alumni that have, received jobs in the past. That being said, they're not just going to be handing out jobs for you. It really depends on you to get the job. Like I've said before, the coding bootcamps aren't going to do everything for you and get you the job afterwards. You're most likely going to go through a pretty hard job application process, right? Like everyone else in this field, it's going to be difficult, and you're going to want to, practice your interview skills. That being said, I don't think coding bootcamps necessarily help you with interview prep, like algorithm questions and stuff like that. That's a whole different skill set. What they will do is give you all the skills you need to get a job, but, the interview prep is a completely different beast, and I don't think that you'll get all those skills from a bootcamp. As for the time commitment, I would say, a traditional full-time boot camp is going to be 8 hours a day, 9 to 5 or whatever it is, just like a full-time job. But I think to really be successful, you just have to put more effort than that, right? You can't just be coding only 8 hours a day, especially when you've never coded before. I would say you got to do upwards of 10, 12, 14 hours a day and really just immerse yourself in the code and just, embrace it completely, learn as much as you can during your time at the boot camp. Now, a lot of people also think that some companies look down upon graduates from a boot camp. I think that's completely not true, especially in 2020. We're really shifting from the traditional education model of going to college or something like that. And I think boot camps are very, very popular these days. And you can just look at the amount of graduates from coding boot camps in the past 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, the numbers have increased dramatically. And, it's a whole industry now. Coding boot camps are a complete separate industry. And I think that a lot of companies have respect for graduates from coding boot camps. And there's genuinely so many people that are graduates from coding bootcamps that work at like Google or Facebook or any of those companies, even smaller startups. You'll find them everywhere. So in terms of that, I think that's a complete myth and complete bullshit. And to finish off, do you think you should go to a coding bootcamp with a CS degree? I would say that if you're in school and that it's the summertime and if you don't have an internship, then it could be a good option because it'll give you a lot of practical knowledge. But if you already have a degree and you're working in the field, I don't think that it'll give you any benefit at all. I think it'll be a waste of money because a lot of time will be spent on the fundamentals and you really won't get the knowledge you need. So I would recommend going to a coding bootcamp only if, you have no experience and you're just starting out, you're trying to get in the industry. If you're in the industry, there will really be diminishing returns if you go to a bootcamp. You're not going to learn as much to justify the fact that you paid let's say, $20,000. I would, look into other alternative ways of education and not go to a coding bootcamp. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about coding bootcamps. If you think I got anything wrong or if you disagree, let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you later.